Hey everyone, greetings from the center of the universe, within Tulsa, Oklahoma. So Tulsa is Oklahoma's second largest city. It's the capital of Route 66. I want to show you some of the highlights, where to eat, some of the best music museums, as well as what makes this city special within Oklahoma.
In this video, we'll explore Tulsa's rich music history, from classic concert venues like Kane's Ballroom to famous recording studios along Studio Row. We'll find out why Bob Dylan chose Tulsa as the home of the Bob Dylan Center, and we'll also see where Dwight Manfredi lived in Tulsa King. We'll eat our way around the world, from South Korea to West Africa to Southeast Asia. So come along and let's explore Tulsa, Oklahoma.
If you're arriving in Tulsa by plane, you'll be landing at Tulsa International Airport, TUL. It's less than 15 minutes from downtown. If you're going to be exploring areas outside of downtown, I highly recommend getting a car. But if you're going to stick to the downtown area, you could walk and use Lyft, which is a little bit cheaper than Uber in most cases. Now, I came from New York and I was able to get a direct flight via Delta from LaGuardia. It's a little more than 3 hours. Mother Road Market has been in Tulsa's Market District since 2018. It's won the award from USA Today 10 Best, the Reader's Choice Award for Best Market, for 2 consecutive years. So they got about a dozen food vendors and also a couple general stores. And I'm trying one of the vendors, which serves West African food from Benin. So I ordered 2 different suya. They were nice enough to mix it for me. So the one with the bone, that's goat. The other one is beef. I know this from Nigeria because there are a lot of West African restaurants in New York City, Houston, San Antonio, other cities like that that I've been to. And I'm also having egusi with fufu. And there's goat meat in there as well. I believe in West Africa, goat is probably the most popular meat. And I'm also having a hibiscus drink, which is pretty much my go-to every time I go to a West African restaurant. Also malt, but I'm not having that today. So suya can be pretty spicy. If you take a look here, there's a lot of orange spice on this one. And I'm going to eat the goat with my hand. That's the one on the bone. Slid right off. Between the two, the goat has a little bit more flavor. For me, I would say this is about a 2 on a 5 level in terms of spice. So for you, it's going to be a 1 at most likely. And I'll also say, in West Africa, it's normally served on a stick. So in this case, it's not served on a stick, but it's the same meat, and it's served over in Africa in newspaper. So I think this is doing a pretty good job of trying to duplicate the experience you would get there. So there's no easy way to do this. This is fufu. This is egusi. And what you do is you take a little bit of fufu, which I believe is like a pounded yam, and you just kind of mix it together and eat it like this. Spice-wise, the egusi is pretty mild. It's very filling. So if you're planning to eat again the day that you're trying this, maybe get the suya. As you can see, I'm eating it with my hands. And the suya, I mean, it is served on paper, but it's not on the bone. But taste-wise, I'm a little partial towards the suya. I love the spices, and they're not overwhelming for me. The Outsiders is probably the most famous movie set in Tulsa. At least it's the most famous one that I'm familiar with. So you can find things all over the city that are kind of a nod to it, you know, besides the house where the movie was filmed. But Mother Road Market has an ice cream place, which is called Big Dipper, and they have a Pony Boy flavor, which is right here. So this is malted sweet cream, pieces of brownie, and also some fudge swirling through it. And by the way, that's some miniature golf finishing up behind me. I'm in the outdoor section of the market right now. Okay, not a big brownie person, but I like the brownie and fudge. But what stands out the most is somewhat subtle, the malt taste. If you've ever had the non-alcoholic malt beverage, I believe it comes from Nigeria, I could kind of taste that in this scoop. For me, The Outsiders is the most important movie set in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So there are a handful of sites you could visit from the movie that are still recognizable today. This is the drive-in theater, which makes an appearance early in the movie. It's been here for decades, still the same location. And what's interesting about this place is it's in the movie and it's also in the book. The intersection of Independence and St. Louis in North Tulsa is now the Outsiders Way and Curtis Brothers Lane. So the house behind it became a museum officially in 2019 and has a fascinating story. A lot of work went into restoring this house that opened as a museum in 2019. 10 years earlier, hip-hop artist Danny Boy O'Connor, known for his work with the House of Pain, was on tour with his group La Coca Nostra. He had a couple days to explore Tulsa, came and found this house, and according to Danny Boy, he found it in a condition more like this place that's right across the street if you take a look. Even if you're not going to do paid admission to the house for a self-guided tour, you have to check out the museum store. So you got movie posters, teddy bears, DVDs. This jacket behind glass was Matt Dillon's, Dallas Winston from the movie. You also have different hoodies, and then you have simple t-shirts here. Here's all the brothers, Pony Boy, Soda Pop, Dairy, Friends, Johnny, Dally, Two-Bit, and Steve. Keep in mind, they were not that famous when the movie was filmed here in Tulsa. And more shirts, and here's some sweatshirts, and check this out. This is the gas station t-shirt with a DX hat. At the end of the movie, Dallas Winston robs a store, and it leads to his demise. This is the jean jacket he was wearing in the movie. This is not for sale, unfortunately. This is one of the international movie posters for The Outsiders, but maybe my most favorite thing here, which kind of dates back to my childhood before I even knew what The Outsiders was, right here, Tulsa edition of Monopoly. I have a small collection of Monopolies. Unfortunately, Tulsa's not one of them. Although it's not prominent in the souvenir shop, there is some House of Pain gear. So leave a comment. Do you remember the House of Pain? I was 12 or 13 when Jump Around became an international hit, and I remember their second album, same as it ever was as well. Walter Jennings is a retired school teacher from Connecticut who's wearing an Outsiders House Museum t-shirt because since retirement he's moved to Tulsa and now he works for the museum. Walter, why are we standing in this spot right now?
So here's the field where they call the vacant lot, where they had two key scenes from the movie. So what you're looking at here is a set of trees. You might remember the scene where Pony Boy and Johnny fell asleep a little bit too late one night. They fell asleep right there under the trees. The second big scene they filmed here was the rumble scene. So you might remember this whole field was filled with the stars of the movie and a whole field full of Tulsa kids as well. And they fought here. It took 3 days to film the scene.
Whoa.
And you can still come down and take a look. I just want you to know that the field might be a little bit smaller now because a house was added to it, but nonetheless, all the key places in the scene are still here on location.
If you've seen The Outsiders, the director's cut from 2005, Pony Boy gets chased when he's walking alone, like his brothers told him not to do. And then the scene ends up here where he gets slashed, and then all the greasers come out, and it's the only scene with all the greasers in one scene. So now we're in Crutchfield Park, which is very important to the movie. What took place in Crutchfield Park for those that don't know the movie as well as we do?
Well, there were a few big scenes that were filmed here in close proximity to the house. So the first scene is the fountain scene, which took place early in the movie. And the blue Mustang, the Soches, drove up that corner of the park. They parked here, and where you see this playscape now is where the monkey bars were that night. It's been replaced to a playscape such as this. And then when they were confronted by the Soches, they ran over here. Now what you're looking at over there is a splash pad. There was a splash pad here in 1982, which they transformed into a fountain for one day to get that scene. It is now back to the splash pad that it was, but the layout of that scene that night from the corner to the playscape to the splash pad is exactly the way it was that night. So here we are at the intersection where Dallas was shot at the opposite corner of the park. So if you were Dallas Winston that night, you would have run up this hill, across here, and right here is where he points an unloaded gun at the police who are coming this way. He immediately gets shot by the police and ends up in that intersection over there, dying in that corner right under the streetlight like it was back then.
Rest in peace, Dallas.
Now here's another location of another big scene filmed at Crutchfield Park. We're standing here next to a baseball backstop, and there's a scene at the very end where Rob Lowe, who plays Soda Pop, runs out of the house at the end, only to be tackled by his brothers right here at the fence. And he went on and on about how difficult it was to keep the family together, because in the end, as he said, they're all they have, because their parents have died and they need to do a better job of getting along. And that pretty much ends the movie before Ponyboy writes the book. And we are here at the corner of Quaker and Jasper on the northwest corner of the park.
Has the rock climbing been added since the movie?
Yes, the rock climbing place has been added, although it's important to know that there was a elementary school that was located here, Lowell Elementary School. It had been closed since 1979, but in 1982, they opened it up for Francis Coppola to have his rehearsals, his casting office, and all the production vehicles and classic cars went in the enclosure at night. And he filmed in the neighborhood, and he went back every night, and he also stayed there for the filming of Rumblefish, which he filmed right after this movie as well. Here we are at a part of the park where Cherry decides to drive up her Corvette to the park to talk to Ponyboy about what the Socs were up to that night. Also, it was filmed from the same perspective there, and if you put a Corvette here and you filmed the two of them, Ponyboy and Cherry, talking that night, they were talking also about sunsets, and the sun does set every night here in Tulsa in the western sky right on that side of the park.
728 North St. Louis is now an Airbnb. Danny Boy bought this property. If you look up here, it says, "Welcome to North Tulsa, home of the Greasers." And when you find this property on Airbnb, it's the Greaser Hideout. You can rent this, and there is some Outsiders memorabilia in there. Mingalaba, everyone. I found a Burmese restaurant. It's pretty far from downtown, and I've found that in Tulsa, if you do want to find Southeast Asian food that is not Vietnamese or Thai, you need to leave the downtown area. So I'm having a dish that I don't get to eat very often, shan noodles. So you can see a lot of ground peanut on top of there. It is a noodle dish, so it's ground peanut, noodle, also sesame seed. And it's served with this side of chicken broth. Shan noodles are named after the Shan State, which is one of the states I did not get to visit during my 2015 trip to Myanmar. So for my taste, they are a little bit spicy if you eat them as is, but if you mix them with the chicken broth, that helps dial back the spice a little bit. If you're looking for something a little more mild, I would try mohinga, which is with vermicelli noodles. It's pretty much the national dish. When I was in Myanmar, I ate it 8 days in a row for breakfast every day. This one's chicken-based shan noodles, but mohinga's fish-based. Mary Beth Babcock is the owner of Buck Adams, which is a quintessential souvenir shop along Route 66. And by the way, Tulsa was declared the capital of Route 66 in 2024. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you got this really cool souvenir shop here, but that's not why I came. No offense. I came because of the monstrous statues that are in your parking lot, and I want to hear more about those.
Yes. So we have Buck Adam. He's a 20-foot tall muffler man. And then we have Stella Adam, and she is a 20-foot tall space cowgirl. They're called Uniroyal Gals. So we've got two giant roadside attractions on Route 66.
Could we go check them out?
Yes.
So Mary Beth, as the sign says, this is a legit Route 66 roadside attraction. How tall is Buck Adams?
Buck is 20 feet tall.
Okay, so it makes you look kind of short.
Yes!
And what is he holding, a rocket?
He's holding a giant space rocket that was made by a local artist here in town named Chris Wallard.
Okay, and when Buck needed a female companion, what did you do?
Had one made, of course.
Okay, and by the way, here's the sign you'll see if you're driving down Route 66. Bucks on 66, Cosmic Curios, Toys, and Souvenirs. Okay, Stella Adam, the space cowgirl. You're standing at the base of Stella. What can you tell us about Stella?
Stella is 20 feet tall as well, and she is our space cowgirl. She is called what they call them Uniroyal Gals, which were made for Uniroyal Tire Company back in the day. So the hand that's holding the ray gun would be holding a tire back in the day.
The Circle Cinema has been around since 1928. There's an outsider plaque commemorating the movie, and the saying "Stay Gold" is there. If you've watched the movie, I'm sure you've heard that. Stepping outside, he would have stepped outside through this door and onto this street where there is now a walk of fame. Bull in the Alley is a speakeasy known for their steaks. So to get here, you have to walk down an alley, look for the green door with the bull above it. Inside this place is very dimly lit, and there are two main items on the menu when it comes to steak. There's a petite filet, and then there's the porterhouse, which they're really known for. It's meant for two, but I'm gonna try and make it for one tonight.
And there's the strip. And we have our filet over here right on top. Beautiful medium right there. Finished off with our clarified butter right there at the top. And all the jus. And there we go, sir. Enjoy.
Thank you. All right, I tried both bites. There's the New York strip side, which is a little bit thicker. It's also a little more buttery. It has molten salt poured on top of it. And something interesting I learned, this is broiled at 1600 degrees. I know pizza is sometimes 800, 900 degrees in a Neapolitan style pizza oven, but I've never heard of a steak being broiled that high. Now, I do prefer the filet mignon side. There's less of it, but you can pull it apart with a fork. You don't even need a knife for that. Also, it just kind of melts in your mouth. Definitely partial towards the filet.
During this visit, I'm staying at the Hotel Indigo, Tulsa downtown, which is a boutique property, part of the IHG group, and conveniently located in the entertainment district.
This sculpture here has a cloud at the top of it, and in the background is the tallest building in Tulsa, Oklahoma, second tallest in the state. And if it looks a little bit like the original World Trade Center, that's because it has the same architect. BOK stands for Bank of Oklahoma. The idea is that when you stand right here, which is center of the universe, you hear an echo, which I can certainly hear now. Leave a comment though, can you hear any kind of an echo? If you saw this in Tulsa King, where Dwight D. Manfredi stands here, the idea is that nobody outside could hear you. That's not the case. In reality, you could just hear an echo yourself. Early in season 1 of Tulsa King, Dwight D. Manfredi, played by Sylvester Stallone, is not happy with the little roadside motel he's staying at, so he asks his driver where he could stay in town, and he says, the Mayo. So I'm at the Mayo right now, and just one small thing to note, the furniture that you would have seen in Tulsa King was brought in by the crew, and then once it was moved out, that's when the furniture that's always here was put back in, and that's what you see right behind me. And check out these chandeliers above my head. So if you're wondering what kind of room somebody might stay in if they're in town to play a concert, or if they're a wealthy businessman or something like that, they may be staying here in one of the penthouse suites. That's the locally famous Mayo logo. And then check this out. You could sleep in there, and this is where you would hang out. So you got a whole kitchen. Then you have this little room right here. Check out this couch. You could probably fit about 8 people on here. TV and another TV. One of the best things about the Mayo, if you're not a guest here, is the rooftop bar. So there's indoor seating there, but then you can also come outdoors, which is especially fun during the warmer months. The bar opens daily at 4, and a who's who of entertainers have hung out here. This is the place that most musicians and other entertainers stay in when they're in town, and it probably doesn't get any more famous than this man right here, Mr. Elvis Presley. And this is one you can't miss. So I saw U2 on the 360 tour, 2009, Norman, Oklahoma, a couple hours from here. And here are some pictures. I'm not sure if those are from the show, but here's an autographed guitar. The upper deck is available for rent. That's the lower deck, which is the same level as the rooftop bar. And then this is the Arkansas River, which runs through Tulsa. Woodrow Wilson Guthrie, who performed under the name Woody Guthrie, is probably the most influential folk musician of the 20th century. Even if you've never heard of him, you've heard of Bob Dylan and Pete Seeger most likely, and he was a huge influence on both, to the point where Bob Dylan headed to New York because he knew that Woody Guthrie was there. So the Woody Guthrie Center is located in this district where I'm standing right now, and later came the Bob Dylan Center, which was put here because of the Woody Guthrie Center.
Casey, just know it's been like that since the 80s, man.
The first floor breaks down Bob Dylan by era. Like a Rolling Stone, if you're not a fan, is probably the first thing you ever heard from Bob Dylan. I heard it first as a Rolling Stones cover, but then later on, I heard a song called The Man in Me, which was later covered by The Clash for London Calling, and later released on the 25-year anniversary edition. Chimes of Freedom was also covered by Bruce Springsteen in the 80s. Although I'm no Bob Dylan fan myself, there's no denying the amount of performers that he's influenced, from Tom Petty and Bruce Springsteen to Patti Smith, and perhaps my least favorite major act of all time, the Grateful Dead. The Bob Dylan archive is on the second floor. There are 92 different enclosed exhibits here, and it seems to run in chronological order. Here's a harmonica, which he was well known for. This really stood out to me. It's a jacket from his 1978 US tour, and this is some kind of promo poster, and I like this elephant one here. It reminds me of Thailand. Apa kabar, everyone. I found an Indonesian restaurant in Tulsa, so I had to try it. I'm trying a drink that I'm lucky if I try this once a year. Soda Gembira, also known as Happy Soda. So it's got a cocoa pandan syrup. That should be where the pink comes from. And then there's a layer of condensed milk you see on the bottom. You have to mix that in. If you've never had this one, just think like what sparkling water would taste like with some condensed milk and a little pandan syrup. Think vanilla. Pandan's often referred to as Asian vanilla. So I'm not going to have the namesake rendang, but instead I'm going to have soto ayam, because I haven't had this in such a long time. In fact, right when COVID started to hit 2020 March, I was in Jakarta. A friend had this dish delivered to my hotel room. I really enjoyed it. And this is shredded chicken, chicken broth, and then these are the glass vermicelli noodles. And it also comes with a side of rice, a little potato cake, and this, which is sambal. Usually it's spicy. This soup is definitely kind of like a comfort food. It's a good entry-level dish. If you're not familiar with Indonesian or other Southeast Asian food, this is a good one to start with. Rendang would be like step 2. Teresa Knox purchased Church Studios in 2015. She's been running the operation ever since. It's a classic analog recording studio in downtown Tulsa. And this room that we're in right now kind of stood out to me. So we are in the Belfry.
Yeah, we're in the Belfry. It's just a place where the bell tower used to be when it was a church in 1915. Today, it's kind of a cool hangout space. A lot of bands come up here and write music. We've rented it out. It is part of our tour that our docents give, but it's kind of a fun place. And then we have commissioned stained glass to honor some of the artists that were here in Tulsa and at the church in the 1970s when Leon Russell had the studio.
Now, speaking of stained glass, you mentioned that each one of these has an Easter egg. With George Harrison, what is it?
It is the flag of Bangladesh.
Yes.
So it's kind of hidden there. And of course, that's his tie to Tulsa and Leon Russell because of the concert for Bangladesh that happened at Madison Square Garden in 1971. So it really brought them together. And it also brought George to Tulsa in the 1970s.
Okay, what about Eric Clapton?
So Eric Clapton is great. Eric worked. He's probably the biggest international example of the Tulsa sound, that music that we like to celebrate. He moved to Tulsa. He worked with Tulsa musicians. He did get into a little bit of trouble when he was here in the 70s. So the Easter egg here are these bars here, because we have a photo of Eric behind jail bars when he got arrested when he was in town.
Okay, so one more question.
Yes.
I see this one is vacant.
Yes.
Who's going to be going in next?
That is going to be Elton John in this one, who really revered Leon Russell as his mentor. And then this plank one over here will be Tom Petty of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. They got their start here 50 years ago in 1974 on that first album when they signed to Shelter Records. I don't know if you've seen these two over here, but we have Bob Dylan and we have Charlie Wilson of the Gap Band, who also got their start here in 1974.
And this is the room where friends of the artists or the artists themselves might hang out while the recording is going on and they're not involved. And then you could see a view from above of where the music is recorded and performed. Okay, Teresa, out of everything you've shown me so far on this tour, I would say this has to be the most impressive and maybe even the most intimidating. So this is the control board?
Yeah, this is the console. It's a Neve 8068. It was manufactured in 1976. We purchased it from the great producer and artist Daniel Lanois. I picked it up in California at his home. It did take about 4.5 years to get it back to factory settings. We had a great technician in San Francisco that worked on it for us, and we just absolutely love it. It's pristine, it's beautiful, it has an extraordinary pedigree with Bob Dylan, with U2, with Emmylou Harris, with Willie Nelson, and of course a brand new pedigree with all of the artists that we've recorded on it. And it really is the holy grail of the studio, full-blown analog. Of course, in this room, we also have our back rack with our limiters and compressors. We do have 2 tape machines. We have a Studer A827, which is a 2-inch tape machine. And then we have a 1/2-inch tape machine with this ATR 102. But it's really a great space. Acoustically, it sounds great. You can see all the cedar on the walls, which is the wood specimen that Leon brought in the 70s, which sounds great in here. And of course, we're overlooking the live room, which is where the recording artists are. And it's a really large room with 20-foot ceilings. And we do all different types of sessions, all different types of genres.
Do you care to do any name dropping of recent artists who recorded here?
Yeah, definitely I can. Let's see. We've had Taj Mahal. He was just nominated for a Grammy Award for the album that he recorded here. We had Jamestown Revival on their participation in the Outsiders musical. We recorded a really great song for them. We've had Kenny Loggins, we've had Bill Champlin, we've had George Thorogood.
And the Destroyers?
Yes. We've had Elle King. She's been with us a couple of times. We've had so many artists, again, from Nashville, New York, California. We've worked with all of the major labels from Disney to Universal, Warner Brothers. It's been really, really exciting.
All right, well, if you need to record, Church Studio, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thank you very much for the tour.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for being here.
Like any city that takes its music history seriously, Tulsa has some great record stores. So I'm checking out Studio Records, where you can find classics from rock bands like Aerosmith and AC/DC, as well as local acts from the state of Oklahoma. But whenever I go to a record store, I always gravitate towards the metal section. Slayer is my favorite thrash metal band of all time, and they have their classics here. But if Slayer's just not intense enough for you, I recommend checking out Scandinavian black metal bands. Here's one, Mayhem, one of the craziest of all time. And leave a comment. Do you own any cassettes? I do. Here's the Montrose self-titled album with Bad Motor Scooter.
So I couldn't leave Tulsa without trying at least one pizza spot, and I found one right near my hotel, Andolini's. Andolini, as in Vito from The Godfather, his name before he became Corleone. And there's a Joey Ramone quote right behind me, and the Italian flag in jukeboxes. So check this out. Here is the DeMarco slice. Tribute to Dom DeMarco, as in Dom, who recently passed away from DeFera. And it's house-made mozzarella, San Marzano tomatoes, very generous drizzle of olive oil on the top. Definitely fold that one and eat it with your hands. I like how there was a very generous portion of olive oil on the top. And then I'll say the sauce definitely stood out the most on that one. A little bit sweet, which I like. And also, I'm gonna say that this kind of does remind me of New York without it being overly greasy like a lot of New York slices could be. The Greenwood Rising Black Wall Street History Center is located in the Greenwood District in North Tulsa. In 1921, there was a massacre here, and one of the most successful and thriving Black communities was destroyed during an era of legal segregation. This is a simulation of the massacre. Unfortunately, the museum does not have any pictures of what the area looked like before the destruction in 1921. The Changing Fortunes room has signs that are replicas of the ones you would have seen in this area before, and including part of 1921. This is a Coca-Cola machine from Eaton's Barber Shop, and right here reminds you of what you used to pay for that, 10 cents for a bottle of Coke. And leave a comment, have you ever seen this before? A little water fountain on the side of a Coke machine. As someone who never lived in Oklahoma and never had a proper visit until 2024, I find this right here to be the most important thing you need to read at the museum, because this reminds you that the massacre took place over 3 days between May 30th, 1921 and June 1st. This is a recreated barber shop where you could actually sit in one of these chairs and listen to the chatter from the fellow barbers in the Greenwood district. So you sit here, and my barber is cutting at the air since I don't really have much hair to cut nowadays. But this is what happens. 3 people sit down, and these men are dressed as they would have been dressed back in the 19-teens, and even up to 1921 when the destruction happened.
Everybody know I got a big heart. That's not what my pockets say.
Greenwood was eventually rebuilt, but it did start to decline, especially after the 1950s, going well into the 1990s. After that, the city of Tulsa started to invest money, and the neighborhood has been growing since, and is a destination for many tourists, not just because of this museum, but because of other businesses in the area as well. After the tour, you could leave a comment through this keypad, and it will show up on this wall. Mr. Kim's is a dinner-only, very dimly lit Korean barbecue spot. They were a James Beard semi-finalist, and I'm here to try the steak. So I'm starting off with the Wagyu tartare. This is filet mignon topped with chives, and this is milk bread with some bone marrow butter, and I believe there's also some caviar in there. The caviar is on the bottom, adds a little bit of saltiness to it. I've never seen beef served with so many chives. And I love milk bread. If you haven't had milk bread before, you have to try it. Not sure if this is how I'm supposed to do this, but this is rice flour on the bottom. You can see I'm trying to flip it here, and I have. So the dumplings have the little rice flour on the bottom. I'm sure that's going to be nice and crispy. As is typical at Korean restaurants, they're served with metal chopsticks. Look at how crispy the bottom of these dumplings are. The crispy bottom of these dumplings is really what stands out the most. They're served with a little spicy ponzu sauce. I'm using a little bit of it. I don't think they need too much. So for my Korean barbecue, I'm doing 3 things: trumpet mushrooms, brisket, and then I'm doing the go-to, marinated galbi, but without the bone in. And everything around here, these are the banchan, and these are usually unlimited, and they are here as well. So the way the brisket's sliced, it only takes, I don't know, 10 or 15 seconds on each side. Galbi comes already marinated, but the brisket does not. Most of the other meats do not, so you got to grill this yourself here. A lot of times the server will grill it for you, but that's not the case here. All right, I'm trying the brisket with just a little bit of salt and sesame oil. The brisket is definitely very thin, also on the chewier side. I would say it would be great in a sandwich. The galbi, the short rib, that's my clear favorite of the two. So it's already marinated, so it has a sweetness to it. You don't even need the sauce. I enjoyed the mushrooms as well. When it comes to flavor, the galbi was my favorite of everything I tried here. But when it comes to presentation, the dumplings are about the coolest thing I think I've seen this year. Kane's Ballroom is Tulsa's longest continuously operating concert venue. It's been around since 1924, and some legends have played here. In fact, hundreds of legends, maybe even thousands, from Peter Frampton and Patti Smith to the Sex Pistols. There's a cut-up Sid Vicious, and Sid was nice enough during the Sex Pistols show here in 1978 to punch a hole in the wall. They even cut that part of the wall out. It's now in the office, and here's a little plaque right here. Interestingly enough, fun fact, the Sex Pistols played their next to last show here in Tulsa at Kane's Ballroom on their ill-fated 1978 tour. And here are a couple action shots of Sid himself. Look there, beer 50 cents, Heineken, that was expensive back then, that was $1. And here's Sid about to play the next to the last show with the Sex Pistols. And what would any legendary concert venue be without autographed guitars from artists who played there, like Jack White, who's a big fan of this place, and Billy Corgan, as in Billy Corgan, who owns NWA Wrestling nowadays. He's played here before, and he signed a guitar, Kane's, where history matters. So leave a comment. Are you a Corpse head? Are you a Cannibal Corpse fan? I want to zoom in here on George Clinton because that's the last concert I saw, was George Clinton, the most recent one at least. B.B. King, Van Halen played here on their way up as an opening act for Montrose, who used to be fronted by Sammy Hagar, who later took over as the lead vocalist. And here's Bob Weir from one of my least favorite acts of all time, The Grateful Dead. And I have this same poster on my wall at home, but I have the Reading, Pennsylvania one. I saw Chris Cornell on this tour, and he also played here in Tulsa. Rest in peace. Now there's a mural outside the venue that's still in progress as of November 2024. It has artists from Willie Nelson and one of my least favorites of all time, Bob Dylan. That looks like John Mellencamp, but I can't be sure. Maybe Hank Williams, but leave a comment. Did you know that Hanson are from Tulsa, Oklahoma? Here are the brothers. Two things I love about a city. Number one, does it have a food scene that's exciting with places that I would recommend to friends and family? And number two, how do they preserve their music history? And in the case of Tulsa, I'll definitely say they're on par with cities like San Francisco and Cleveland, and for that matter, the entire state of New Jersey. So I highly recommend Tulsa, and I really understand why so many New Yorkers have relocated here and are not looking back. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe. I got more trips coming up soon. I'm going to be heading down to Greenville, South Carolina for the first time ever. Also going out to Cleveland, Ohio for the first time in more than a decade. Then I got some trips planned out to the Caribbean. So I'm going to be going to the US Virgin Islands for the first time. And I'm also going to be doing my first ever dedicated Puerto Rico trip. I'm going to be hanging around San Juan. So I hope you get to come to Tulsa, explore some of the music history, check out historic hotels like the Mayo, explore the local food scene, and I look forward to sharing more videos with you soon.